Caraca, velho. Canal do Piuzinho sendo hackeado ao vivo, velho. Olha isso, velho. Ao vivo, velho. Misericórdia.
Then you get what's called an out of gas error. Oh, look, this transaction had budgeted 1 million steps, but it already took up 1 million steps, and it looks like it's going to add some more. It might even run forever, I have no idea. So, it already took up 1 million steps, it might even run forever, I have no idea.
Olha isso, velho. Hackeado ao vivo, velho. Caraca, boy. Isso não pode contra um canal de 10 milhões, velho. 10 milhões. É 10 milhões, velho. 10 milhões de inscritos, velho. $10 milhões de inscritos aqui sendo jogado no lixo se eu não fizer nada, velho. E o que porra de programa é esse que estão passando, velho?
Qual o shopping que quer comprar?
Caraca, meu irmão. Caraca, se fosse eu, velho, ver que o cara batalhou tanto pra chegar nesse canto e...
Separately from that, there is protocol economics, and the rules of protocol economics say...
Live, filha da puta.
Pauzinho, sabe? Pauzinho, o tipo da live. O tipo da live tá pauzinho.
So, gas limit. So the equivalent of the block size limit in Bitcoin is kind of the gas limit in Ethereum. It's 1.7 million gas per block. Now, gas isn't just about counting computational steps. You also get charged gas for writing to the state, reading to the state, bytes of your transaction, bytes that you added to receipts, bloom filter topics. So you get
Caraca, meu irmão, os caras estão hackeando ao vivo. E o pior é que colocaram o programa retirar se é russo, alemão, espanhol,
So the gas limit actually does kind of adjust automatically, and miners can't vote on it. So if Ethereum blocks start getting full, then basically miners
Eu tô mostrando, ó.
will be able to kind of just vote the gas.
Vou provar a galera aqui agora, velho. Olha isso, olha isso. Pera aí, ó.
Transactions,
Ó.
7 parameters. Nonce, so basically prevents replay attacks.
Piuzinho.
So for example,
Cara,
if I
vai.
send you
Aperta aqui, meu irmão. Aparece essa live, velho. Que é isso, velho?
including it in a block 10 times to try and drain 10 from my account over and over again.
Finge que tu tá falando e eu tô acreditando tudo,
Number,
rapaz.
and if
Que
once
isso,
once a transaction with a particular nonce is processed,
O meu tem 700. Se acontecesse isso, eu acho que eu ficava doido. Caraca, meu irmão, isso não pode acontecer não, doido. Tu tá ficando doido, é, meu? Ah, meu camarote.
So if you're just sending ether, you don't need to care about data. If you're talking to a contract, then data is readable by contract code. So data is how you specify what function of a contract you're calling, what parameters you're calling it with, anything sort of more complex with that. And VRS, elliptic curve digital signatures. Feel free to research them yourself. I think elliptic curve math is cool. Receipts, not going to bother with those. So Ethereum virtual machine, we have a stack, we have a concept of memory, storage, environment variables. So contracts have access to things like the timestamp. And this is great because you can have contracts that say, if the time is greater than, on January 1st, 2018, then do something. And there's lots of wonderful use cases for this. Logs, calling contracts, calling other contracts. Now, in general, if you're a contract writer, you're not going to be writing in like Ethereum virtual machine code directly. You're going to be writing in higher level languages.
E o pior é que tá passando uma live que não tem nada a ver, velho.
Now, you can also
Apagaram tudo, velho, ó. Ah, não, ainda tem umas coisinhas aqui ainda. Ó, ainda tem vídeo, ó. Mas tá tudo privado, velho. Caraca, tudo privado, meu irmão. Comunidade. Apagaram tudo, boy. Tudo. Olha aqui, ó. Olha que o tanto de visualização que o Piuzinho tem no canal aqui dele aqui, ó. Chega a ver. Aqui, ó, ontem, ó. Tanto de visualização que ele tem no canal dele. 660 milhões 265 mil 158. Então os caras fizeram a palhaçada dessa, meu irmão.
standardized algorithm called the API.
Caraca, macho. Não vai acontecer não, velho. Isso não pode acontecer não, velho.
Then 32 bytes for the first argument, then 32 bytes for the second argument. If you have variable sized arguments,
E o pior é que os caras hackearam e não estão nem aí, mas isso é inveja, velho.
and the mining algorithms try to be kind of memory oriented. So the goal is to prevent ASICs or prevent specialized hardware.
Não, pô, não tô dando grana não. O canal é do Piuzinho ainda, ele vai recuperar, filho. Acredita.
CPU mining has other issues, so we have this sort of GPU mining as an
Caraca, mas é muita safadeza um negócio desse, boy.
algorithms, and it's called ehash. So fast block times, Merkle trees. So this is also a kind of very important piece of the Ethereum protocol. So the reason why I have this picture here is because about a year ago there was this cover in the New York Times that basically you have life math.
O cara não é brincadeira não, ó. O cara vem nas pesquisas, é porque eu já tinha pesquisado. Vou botar aqui a Piuzinho, ó, pra vocês verem aí, ó. Piuzinho, ó. Tudo, os caras tudo postando, filho, ó. Os caras tudo postando, meu irmão. Piuzinho aqui vai no canal dele, ó. Tá essa live aí, palhaçada que fizeram agora, meu irmão.
So this is how the
E que
Ethereum
porra de live é essa, velho?
So the problem is
Que vídeo é esse,
you have the
velho?
entire database, if you have the entire state, if you have all the transactions, then you can know, let's say, what your account balance is.
Caraca,
what
isso é
some particular
palhaçada, velho, que
contract
estão
code is,
fazendo.
what some particular contract storage is, what some particular log says.
Foi pro quartel da
What
anúncio?
if you're a light client? What if you're on a phone? What if you're on an IoT device?
Bini
You don't have
D.
enough resources to process the entire blockchain. So the blockchain itself, right now, the blockchain is 3 bytes.
Eita.
The state size is
A menos de
around,
adicionar.
5 and 20
Agora
bytes,
não.
depending on which client option.
Sem falar que meu celular já tá indo pro brejo também, descarregando, filho.
So if, let's say, you have a
21.
client device that has like 50 megabytes in very low processing
E ele
power,
colocou essa fita no pé.
so this wonderful fellow came up with this algorithm where
A
basically
live já não foi nem. Como é que eu posso dizer? A live não foi nem.
the pieces of data at the bottom, then you like have hashes of those, and you have hashes of hashes and hashes of hashes. And the end result is
ABC, a live não foi nem planejada, filho. Só tô fazendo aqui do nada.
let's say some like this particular
E aí, mano, muito pequeno teu paizinho. ABC falida. Sem carregador, irmão.
download the entire blockchain yourself.
E aí, meu cria, como é que tá você? Tudo bom?
What kind of work on this Merkle branch?
Tá difícil aqui, viu?
Inside of the branch are consistent.
É porque Redmi Note 8 não descarrega não.
Just kind of verify the Merkle branch against the block headers. And what you're doing is you're essentially allowing the miners to
Caraca, mano, não vou fazer nada não pra recuperar não, hein?
piece of the state actually is
Vamos ver o canal do Lzinho aqui.
Eu pedi nada.
O Lzinho não falando nada. Lzinho não, Jordan, né?
to a Merkle, this sort of Merkle proof that
Caraca,
says
meu
this
irmão.
particular key in this particular account is 45. If you can verify the proof of work and you can verify the hashes, then basically
Que
you can
porra
verify
de
that
live é essa, meu
unless
irmão?
like all the miners or some are at that particular time conspiring to screw you over, this actually is what the state of the blockchain is in this particular place at that time. So the light client, there was like a test of an alpha version that was released a couple of weeks ago. I've tried it, it works great.
É os falidos.
So block headers contain 3 trees. So we
caras chamando a gente de
Merkle trees
falido aí.
just for transactions.
A gente não, quando faço mais parte da ABC. Eles,
So
né?
this includes account balances, contract code, contract storage, receipts, So we have patricia trees, which allow you to kind of update the
Caraca,
tree very
mano.
efficiently. And,
Deixar dislike, fi.
so those are kind of the
Não é o
basic
Piuzinho que tá
building blocks
fazendo
of
isso?
the Ethereum
Acredito que
protocol
não,
right
né?
now. There's also
E sim,
very
foi
fun stuff that
hackeado.
we're working on in the future, so things like proof of stake, that I'm going to, and the scalability that I'm going to talk about in my
Acredito
presentation
que
later
não, né?
today.
Mas
Privacy support. So basically, with privacy, you don't have to actually build things into the base protocol. Because the Ethereum protocol was Turing complete, you can basically like implement any kind of advanced cryptography on top of it. Now, for like VM efficiency reasons, there are still sort of protocol tweaks that we have to make, but even still, it's something where like the vast majority of the work actually does sort of happen on the higher levels. Virtual machine upgrades, sort of more flexible use of storage and scalability, and these things are great. And just to set a good example, I'm going to stop now because the clock tells me to stop now. So thank you. Let me check. Oh, this one. Okay, let me try this. What's happening to it? No, it's just coming slowly. How do I go back? Oh, up. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So I heard people in the audience complaining on WeChat about the mic being too quiet, so I'm gonna try to keep it closer to my mouth this time around. We'll see if it works. Great, so this is the one of the sort of standard presentations I give when people want just like a quick overview of the entire Ethereum protocol. So chances are you'll listen through this, you'll catch some things, you won't catch other things, but at the very least you'll kind of understand what the broad structure
pior que eu não tô entendendo nada. Tô tão vendo a live aqui, né, velho?
We have quite a
Tá
few materials
maluco.
online that tell you about the rest.
Sendo hypado o canal do Piuzinho, fi.
The website. If you are a developer, you can even read things like the yellow paper and the Ethereum source code. If you want to get like that deep an understanding as of sort of how the Ethereum protocol works, I highly recommend doing those things. If you have specific questions, I also highly recommend even going into some of our public channels. So if you go to like gitter.im, gitter.im/Ethereum, for example, you can actually like literally just talk to our developers, and they're like right there, and you can ask questions. We're
Que é o canal do
generally a fairly
Piuzinho,
friendly
fi.
community, I hope. So, anyway, Ethereum in 25 minutes. So, first of all, how did the project start? So, project started back in 2013. At the time, people were very interested in blockchains. People were looking at Bitcoin, people were excited about Bitcoin, but people were also realizing that blockchains are useful for things other than just money. So back in 2011, there was a project called Namecoin, which was trying to make a blockchain-based domain name system. In 2013, there were projects called colored coins, which were trying to like digitize arbitrary digital assets or arbitrary assets and put them on the blockchain. There were protocols called Mastercoin that were trying to integrate all sorts of fairly complex features. So there was a consensus that you can do lots of different really cool things with Bitcoin, or with other blockchains. Asset issuance, crowdfunding, title registration, lots and lots of stuff. Problem is, most blockchain protocols were designed like this. Pocket calculator, single purpose device, works reasonably well for all you care about is adding and multiplying numbers, but it does nothing else. And sure, someone with an advanced computer science degree with a good calculator can kind of hack it to play a video game inside of it, but do you really want to do that? So, after this, in 2013, there were people who were making protocols that looked like this. So, Swiss Army knife. Basically, you come up with a list of 10 or 20 features you want to have, make a little tiny thing for each one of them, stick them together into a knife, and there you go, that's your product. Or in this case, that's your blockchain. So back at the end of 2013, there were lots of projects that looked like this. They just said, okay, we want blockchains to be usable for asset issuance, crowdfunding, bets, prediction markets, identity registration, title registration. Pick a list of 20 different things, have a list of 20 different transaction types, and have a little piece of the protocol that supports each one. So this is all well and good. Problem is, what if you come up with your list of 20 applications, publish a protocol, Then the next day, some guy says, oh look, I discovered a 21st blockchain application. How am I going to fit it in? And in 2013, this is exactly what started to happen. So this is the Ethereum way. So why do we love smartphones so much? Basically because a smartphone is nice and generic. You buy it once, and download immediately comes with 50 or 100 applications. If someone comes up with a new application, they write the code, they upload it to the Google App Play Store, and if you want it to be accessible in China, you can upload it to the Huawei Store as well. And then, if anyone wants to use your application, they don't need to buy a new phone, they don't need to buy a new hardware dongle, they just download the app and they can start immediately running it. Very simple. And the cost of actually developing an application, all you have to do is write code. You don't have to make your own hardware, you don't have to have your own manufacturing, you don't have to have your own distribution. Just write a piece of code, upload it, and let people download it, and you're done. So this is the kind of abstraction and simplicity that I wanted to bring to the blockchain world with Ethereum. So, Ethereum is a blockchain. I'm sure if people here are familiar with blocks, I'm sure people here are familiar with transactions. And these are all well and good, but Bitcoin has them too. Namecoin has them too, Litecoin has them too, Dogecoin has them. I'm not sure if Paycoin has blocks though. I don't know, Paycoin might even run on a server, I haven't even checked. Proof of server, the best kind of POS. But we have a few tiny additions. So the main thing that makes Ethereum tick is this built-in programming language. So basic concept is, if you have some new kind of application, then what you would do is you would write the rules of your application in a piece of code. Take this piece of code, you would call this a contract, upload it to the blockchain, and now you have a special type of account. And this type of account sits on the blockchain, and anyone can send a transaction to this account in order to interact with this account. So two types of account. One type of account is a user account, controlled by people like you, and the other type of account is a contract, which is controlled by a piece of code. If you send 1 unit of Ether to an account that is controlled by code, then no person controls it anymore. The only thing that can actually move that Ether is the execution of that contract's code itself. So it basically is an automaton sitting on the blockchain that's executing exactly as the code on the blockchain says it's going to execute. So this is all well and good. Let's try an example. So the hello world of Ethereum is sort of basic, a minimal sort of DNS system. So the idea here is you want to store a mapping of basically domains. So you have something like I don't know, Vitalik.eth, George.eth, Ethereum.eth, ask me about my cool Ethereum hacking services.eth. So you have a bunch of domains that people might want to register, and for each one you want to store the IP address that it points to, and you want to store who owns that domain at that particular time. So we have two functions. One of them is for registering a domain, and the logic is pretty obvious. If the domain has not yet been registered, then you set the owner to yourself. And another function that says set the IP address. If you own that domain, then you can set the IP address. And this is like basically the minimal thing that's like all you need in order to have.
Aquí, este quincenazo tiene los mejores precios. ¡Compruébalo! Leche entera con...
Se saia.
You have this piece of code, then what you would do is
Vídeos,
you would get some
playlist,
then include the code in a transaction,
tudo,
push the transaction
tudo,
up onto the blockchain. Now what you
tudo,
have created is a contract. And a contract has
tudo apagado, macho. Apagaram tudo do canal do Piuzinho. Tá maluco, velho. Tanto trabalho que o cara teve pra chegar e fazer a merda dessa, velho. Pra quem não tá entendendo nada, tropa, o canal do Piuzinho foi hackeado, velho. Foi hackeado agorinha, ó. Tá essa live lá no canal, vocês vão lá no canal dele e acompanham tudo, ó. Tá sendo hypado o canal do cara. Os caras apagaram tudo, velho. Hypado o canal do Piuzinho.
this transaction, include this data, publish the transaction. When the transaction gets included, the code runs, and you notice it says
Hypado o canal do Piuzinho, filho. Aí, ó.
So what that line of code basically does is it says, whatever address sent that transaction,
Ó,
record that address in
vou
the
fechar a
context.
live, vou pro início. Canalzinho do Whindersson, que eu sou inscrito. Vou botar aqui, ó. Piuzinho. Vou botar Piuzinho Free Fire. Vou no canal do Piuzinho. Procura os vídeos do cara, ó. Piuzinho Mito. Privado. Opa, peraí. Nimo Live. Tudo privado, velho, ó. Hypado o canal do Piuzinho, hypado. Meu, só tem 700. Se acontecesse uma presepada dessa, fi. Acho que...
Of code is nowhere in the state.
Imagina 10
If I
milhão,
send a
fi.
transaction,
10
publish the
milhão.
transaction which creates the contract's code is now in the state.
10
Now,
milhão
if
de
I
gente.
send another
Ave Maria,
transaction,
doido.
which then talks to this contract and registers a domain, then the process of executing that transaction is going to change the state. And the new state is going to contain some storage keys that basically say this particular domain has some particular owner and some particular IP address. So that's kind of what the state means. So it's stuff that you have to kind of care about now. So in Bitcoin, for example, the state is pretty simple. It's just like how much money everyone has at some particular point in time. The second thing is history. So history is things that happened. So transactions are part of the history. Receipts are part of the history. Don't have time to go into them, but feel free to research them more. And like the answer at this point basically is that if you are a full node, then as a full node, what you do is, number one, you download all the blocks, you download all the transactions. When you receive a block, what you would do is you would see what the state was before the block. Then you would execute all the transactions in turn, and you would update your own state. So all full nodes basically execute all transactions. They would execute all contracts, and full nodes, some of them store the history, some of them don't store the history. So like there are clients that are increasingly coming out that let you sort of not store large portions of the history, and this is good because it saves contract rules.
Esse cara da live aí, fi, porque os caras hackearam e colocaram uma coisa qualquer, fi, no canal dele. Pegaram o canal do Piuzinho, pode pesquisar aí, ó, vai no YouTube aí, ó, aí você coloca Piuzinho, faz isso aqui igual eu tô fazendo, ó. Início, vou pesquisar aqui, ó, Piuzinho. Botar Piuzinho Free Fire, não, Piuzinho só, pronto, Piuzinho. Vou no canal do Piuzinho, aí tem esse vídeo ao vivo, velho. Os caras hackearam, filho, 10 milhões de inscritos. 10 milhões de inscritos, 87 minutos atrás, ó. Sacanagem, velho, um negócio desse. Eu só tenho 700, filho, ó. 700 inscritos. Se acontecesse um negócio desse, eu ficava doido. Imagina com um cara que tem 10 milhões, velho. Que é o 400 de tantos mais do que o meu. Até bugou já, ó. Vou botar de novo, ó. Como é? Como é? Aí o primeiro canal de Free Fire, tropa, hackeado, velho. Pode ser também uma trollagem dos amigos deles, né? Não sei. Mas pode ser a trollagem dos amigos deles, né? Não sei, mas que os caras estão descendo a lenha aqui, isso é verdade. It's bold because it's important, as Vlad likes to say in the previous DEFCON. So, gas. This is another one of those sort of important misconception points. So, basically one of the problems with a kind of extremely free and Turing complete scripting engine is the halting problem. And the halting problem basically says, given a particular canal do Piuzinho Sendo Hackeado,
there's
cara.
absolutely no sort of
Caraca.
guaranteed way to tell in advance whether or not the program is ever even going to stop.
Tanto tempo que o cara juntou tudo isso de inscrito, fez a galera feliz e hoje tá aí, ó. Sendo hypado, velho. Se fosse tu, tu ficava doido? E a lorota é que eles colocam um cara nada a ver, velho, na live. Faz um negócio desse, é como se fosse tirando onda, entendeu? Coloca. Não sei se isso é inglês. Acho que isso é inglês, ó.
We count the number of computational steps that the code takes. And every transaction assigns itself a budget. So a transaction might say
Vamos parar com a live, meu celular não é
So what does that mean? So
Bom,
let's say
mano.
this transaction
Valeu,
goes
tropa.
to some contract, the code starts running.
Fechar com a live fechada assim, ó.
One of two things can happen. One of them is before
Valeu,
the million
tropinha.
steps run out,
Fui.
execution stops.